The agreement today does not preclude the complainants from taking other action or preclude the AFL from bringing a charge under AFL rules against Hawthorn Football Club. That'll be a decision for the General Counsel and or the Commission, but obviously there's a broad range of rules, whether it be conduct unbecoming or bring the game into disrepute or whatever it is. I'm not preempting it, but I'm certainly not ruling that out.
Of course, we'd be extremely disappointed if this matter led to sanctions, including financial. But what I would say is we went into this process with the best of intention. I don't think anybody is questioning that. I don't want to preempt what will or won't happen or might not happen. That's for those parties and us to resolve, and that's part of the melting pot here. Is there are a number of issues that need to be talked through, and hopefully we get that opportunity.
This has developed every hour, it feels like, since all of that last night. What's the latest as we go to air tonight?
Oh, it's developing very, very quickly. We're reporting that the AFL asked Hawthorn to contribute to a compensation fund for the families, and Hawthorn said no. And they've got no compensation fund. And I don't know if the AFL was entirely happy about that. Gil McLaughlin stressed last night there was no financial component to the settlement. But there was going to be if Hawthorn said, yes, we'll contribute. But they didn't contribute. So that's one aspect. The Players Association have come in and described the situation as, I don't know exactly what word, have you read it? Farce or whatever it is. And I'm a bit angry with the Players Association. You can say whatever. And I don't care what people think of my opinion on this. When the war's on, right, those players and the coaches, all of them, they needed support, right? Public support. The Players Association comes in after the war's over. Okay, where were they when the bullets were firing? Get involved, go public and say everyone needed support. Yeah. And I think the Players Association let them hang out to dry for far too long. And when they announced it, then they come out and go, bang, 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 that's all terrible. Yeah, well, I think publicly they should have supported them way earlier.
In real time, they were the ones to say that the independent process wouldn't work. That they put all the red flags, which have proven to be accurate, up in real time at the start of it, that this wasn't the appropriate way to go. There wasn't suitable separation from the AFL. So there's an element of that has come to pass, I think. You spoke with Leon Zwire during the day. So the 4 Indigenous families who have been central to last night's resolution have every intention of going to the Human Rights Commission.
It's the first time Leon has spoken publicly. They're committed to going to the Human Rights Commission. There's more going to be playing out there over the next couple of days, Jared. And that always happens, everyone. The big announcement last night, nothing to see here. Nothing to see here. And we were discussing this last night, whether there was proof or not proof and et cetera, et cetera. I still find it staggering that the AFL, this investigation, this independent investigation, I know I'm going off here, but the independent investigation did not speak to the coaches or to the 4 families. They got written submissions from them, so they didn't speak. And then the AFL comes back and says, well, they didn't find any adverse findings. Well, how could they? How could they find them? There's not a lot of stuff to hand to the AFL. So the independent investigation, they're not happy. They're not happy, Jerry, I'm telling you right now. So there's a lot of layers, as I said last night, and it's all going to play out over the next couple of days.
Yeah, they might not be happy, but they had, after 8 months, they were at a stalemate.
Of course they were, because the coaches wouldn't talk to them. I don't think anyone
last night said nothing to see here. That's not what I heard. You've quite rightly posed the question today as how do we go on without the truth?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I was thinking about...
Maybe
this was always destined...
For the Human Rights Commission?
For somewhere under oath, no veils of anonymity and the capacity to test each version of events on both sides. And then in the piece you wrote, where you quite rightly posed the question, how do you go on without the truth, is the thing that struck me is we know one half of the story, but nowhere in the public domain is the other half of the story. No. So you can...
Well, Jason Burt's version of an event is in the public domain. From Clarkson and Fagan.
So whatever their statements were at the end, they are not in the public domain. Also, it's impossible to weigh two when we only have one, and we can repeatedly read one. Right. But we have nothing to counter that.
Why would... We've got nothing to counter it. So the AFL got all these written statements. They've read them all. And they've decided, from what they have got, the information they've got, that there's no charges. Do they actually sit back and say, you know, there's no charges, but geez, this is not good. This is not good reading. We're not going to do anything about it? No, the AFL, we're fine. And the three coaches, and you know, I'm really happy for them. It's a great relief for them. They've been under tremendous stress, and so there's a lot of people in this. But I find it staggering that we wake up this morning and say, oh, well, that's it from the AFL, is it? That's it.
So there's additional levels of detail throughout the day, and one of those came in Jason Burt's statement, which he posted at LinkedIn. And this, I also think it's important to clarify that Zach and Kylie, who continue to make allegations to the media, are not Indigenous Australians. I think that
why
is a jarring
Why is that
moment.
important? Why is that important?
That hasn't been in the public domain.
No. Should it be in the public domain?
Yeah, I think we've worked under the idea that these are Indigenous Australians.
So who are they?
No, I don't know the answer to that. All I know is what's read in that statement. So that's a layer of detail that hasn't been in the public. The other statement I thought that was significant
that is
today
a layer of detail.
Was that Dr Sonia Hood, in her statement, the President of North Melbourne, having heard Alastair's story, spoken to many of his past players, Indigenous and non-Indigenous, and colleagues, and had a chance to review the documentation presented to the independent panel, much of it as late as this week, this is a just outcome, albeit one that was a long time coming.
What was your gut reaction?
She's a long way in advance of where we are, and her belief is that this is a just outcome.
So I agree with all that. My initial reaction to it was, what has Sonia Hood got this investigation? How does Sonia Hood get it? She shouldn't be getting that. It's a private. That was my gut feel straight away. Great speak, great Sonia, really supportive. How did you get the investigation? What's a club president doing with an investigation? Because Alastair Clarkson's at Hawthorn, she gets given to it. Who gave it to her? The AFL.
No, I don't know the answer to that.
I don't think the independent panel did, led by Bernie Quinn KC. Oh, Sonia, yeah, I'll email it over to you. So that was that triggered me a little bit. But with that, they interviewed a lot of players. I mean, I heard Luke Hodge talking to you this morning, and Luke said, yeah, they asked for a statement, and he gave a statement. I think a lot of players gave statements, and a lot of them was probably supportive of Alastair Clarkson and Chris Fagan. But I found that curious.
Do you think Hawthorn will face action? So Andy Gower's quote was he would be extremely disappointed if they faced sanction, including financial.
What I know of the AFL, they don't do any scandal without having a victim. There's always someone...
or a victim?
They're a culprit, whatever. Victim. Hawthorn, I think, are going to get punished, OK? That's what I'm saying. What did I say? Culprit.
Yeah.
Someone is going to be left holding the baby. The AFL would probably not happy that Hawthorn didn't want to contribute any money to the compensation fund, so there's a cross, I should say. So, last one on this. Everyone's really good after the event. It's like the pandemic. Should have done that, should have done that, should have done that, should have done that. You're all shit house, you're going to get out of government. But how often does pandemics come along, Jared? So in this situation, everyone says Hawthorn did the wrong thing. I look back, I'll go back, I'm trying to put myself in Hawthorn's shoes. What should they have done? What do you think they should have done when they got the report, the Minmata report? What do you think they should have done with it?
It's before that.
Okay,
before that.
No,
so it is so naive what has been spoken about and said today. It wasn't even a report, it was a welfare check, it's storytelling. I wonder if, so park the employees of Hawthorn and go with the affected families.
Yeah.
When they were provided with this safe environment to storytell, were they told that the consequence of an allegation would be immediate referral to the AFL's integrity department?
No, it's a great question.
No, they weren't.
It's a great question.
It was so flawed in its setup. And so Jeff Kennett says we had to do it. The guardrails that were missing for the families involved, never mind anybody else, that you would be plunged into an adversarial process by if there was anything in your stories. So I can only think that they thought they were going to get these lovely stories of people who had terrific experiences at Hawthorn. It would reinforce that the Rioli matter was one out. And then when they got confronted with what they confronted for, they had nothing in place to be able to deal with it other than go and drop it at the AFL.
Again,
and that betrayed the very people that they drew the stories from in the first place, who weren't queuing up to air their grievances.
No, it's a reasonable point, but I'll say it again. It's not just you, everyone. It's easy to throw darts at the end, but at the start you get it and you go, oh my God, these stories are harrowing. Jeff Kennett says harrowing, horrifying. We've got to alert the. I'm not defending Hawthorn.
He also described it as a speed bump. So I think judgment along the way is highly questionable at key moments.
Yeah, well, that's, I suppose, it's leadership. But, you know, people make mistakes all the way through life. They just do.